Yes! Welcome back to the sequel of part 2, because it's going to be a 3-part, so the third part will be a 3-part. I think it's a 3. Anyways, welcome back to part 2. Let's get into it. And since we did our research and early ideation in the last video, this time around I'm going to take an idea that I like and try to detail it as much as I can before moving on to the final sketch. The solution that I'm going for is the one with the interlockable containers. I really like the idea of easily doubling the space of the container while not having them loosely fly around in a backpack. And while I wanted to work on a solution where you can also attach a water bottle to the container, I decided it's not what I want to go for in this exercise. What I'm doing here is trying to find details and the shape and form of the container I want to design. I like drawing the same shape over and over again because in this way I feel I get a really good feeling for the volumes that I will have to draw. And if I'm not in a hurry, I find this to be a really good exercise. In general, we don't pay that much attention to the exact dimensions of things, so by repeating the same shape over and over again, I'm going to notice if I draw them too differently, and I can easily course correct and decide on what are the dimensions that I want to use, even if they will be not precise. In this instance, this is a really relaxing and fun drawing exercise since I am drawing basic shapes that are easy to draw but also satisfy the drawing muscles that are used and enjoy those repetitive shapes and form. So while it might seem a bit boring in the beginning, this part is actually quite calming. This section also gives me a good opportunity to explore the interior of the container, to think about the thickness of the walls and also the lid. I hinted shortly during my exploration sketches at the possible division within the container, so I'm going to redraw that sketch and later on go more into detail with it. For me, it is important to have all the ideas and detail on one big page, so I can pick and choose in the end what I implement and what I leave out. What is quite important for me here is figuring out how I will use the same solution to attach the lid to the container, but also attach two containers together. In the exploration phase, I didn't really pay attention to how this joining would work, since that was not the purpose of the exercise. But now this is really something that I need to figure out. You will see me draw several cross-section sketches working on this problem. Sometimes messing up the drawing, making walls too thick, and other times just doing minor iterations on the same solution. I try to leave the biggest chunk of time for this exercise. I want to be confident that I have enough time to find a solution to these problems, because it can easily happen that the design exploration that we really liked and brought over from the previous session just won't work, and in that case we can switch to the second idea that we chose. In this case I was actually a little bit stuck. A good solution to joining and then separation of the lid and the container, or container and container, just didn't come to mind. I was trying all sorts of handles and protrusions so the finger can get easily under the lid, but those solutions usually didn't work with the containers when they are joined together. I needed a fresh perspective, so I took a lunch break, and when I was back from lunch, that is when everything sort of jumped into place. Instead of trying to add an extra handle with which I could force the lid and container or two containers apart, I thought a nice solution would be to make the wall of the container more flexible. So by applying force and pushing it in, you can lift the lid. My thinking is that the corners are hardened plastic anyways, so that will keep the structural integrity of the container. But if I would make the two sides on the long ends a bit more flexible, I could achieve this quite easy to use opening method. Now, looking back, I really don't think those button looking things are needed, but my idea was that on one end I would leave this button, meanwhile on the other end I would create a little thing where I can click my water bottle on. But while exploring this quickly in a sketch, I decided to not use the water bottle idea, and still I stuck with that button anyways. I really hope I will remove this during the rendering phase in the next video. Hopefully I won't forget. Now that I felt that I had all the details that I wanted to add to my drawing, I started doing the layout. This you can do in several ways. You can sketch and erase and move things around just as you will see me do it here, but you can also just draw small thumbnails and see how it works best, like do several small thumbnails one after the other. Layout and composition can be a topic in itself, or actually several topics, but the most important thing in this case for me was communication. I knew what I wanted to communicate, namely that this is a container, how you can put it together, how the joining mechanism works, and how it can be partitioned on the inside. So all I had to do was convey this information. And here is where composition comes in. You don't want to give the same importance to all the elements in your layout because your eye will get bored and it will wander off. So I split the design of the final visual into one big element, several small details, and a couple of medium details. I also wrote down why I picked these elements, and this I shouldn't forget to showcase in the final visual as well. Text always adds to an explanatory visual like this. From here I did another sketch layer, just so I don't have to work on the final layout too much. The number of pre-sketches really depends on how brave or open for exploration I feel. Sometimes I just use one pre-sketch, other times I decide to tighten it up a bit more and add another layer. This time I'm not really satisfied with the final lines, as it happens many times to me, sadly. The previous sketch version is much looser and much more dynamic, and because I used the rules, my lines became very stiff and inorganic in the finer lines layer. But I will try my best to fix much of it in the final rendering video, which will be coming next week. Anyways, there is not much I have to say about the final line art. Hopefully you saw my previous videos and know what my approach is. This is all I have for this week's video, but be sure to check in next week again, where I will be talking about rendering the line art and maybe using some photo bashing to bring the ideas more to life, to give it an extra feel of realism. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. For more regular updates, you can follow me on Instagram, and as always, wish you a great day and see you folks next time. Bye bye!